Hello, my name's Helen and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my daughter Jade. It was a normal Friday night. She had left her phone at a friend's house. Jade was only 13 and she asked me if she could go to her friend's to pick her phone up. It was about 8:30 at night, so starting to get dark. I did the normal mummy thing of, you know, okay, straight there, straight back, don't be too long.
My name's Courtney and I'm talking about my sister, Jade. As she walked out the door to go get her phone from her friends, she said that she loved me and she said she'd be back soon to read me a story. I was only 9 at the time, so I got excited and ran off to bed waiting for her.
She told me she loved me. She walked out the door. That was the last time I seen my daughter.
I was working a normal shift. There was a report of a serious road traffic collision, and the officers that were first at the scene, you could hear it in their voices that it was a little bit, it was going to be a little bit messy and a little bit gruesome by the sounds of things, because basically they were talking about cars that exploded and bodies in the road. And part of my role in the traffic department at the time was a family liaison officer, so I knew that it was a very serious collision and there was a chance of a fatality, so I was deployed to go to the scene.
It got to about 9 o'clock and I still hadn't heard anything, and I was trying to phone her, but her phone just kept ringing and ringing and then going to answer phone. I was also texting her, but I didn't hear anything back.
We went into the A&E unit and we were met by the crash team, and that's when I take one step back and the cubicle curtains are closed, and you can hear all the doctors rushing in, the nurses running around, they're taking bloods, and there's a level of activity. Second ambulance came in with the second casualty in, and the same thing again. And a few minutes went by. I can't give you time how long it was, but you sort of hear a conversation going along, and you hear I heard the words, I think we've done everything we can, and would everyone agree? And then there was a few yeses, and then you hear the words, time of death. And from that sort of moment on, you take a deep breath, because you know that's when you're going to step in, because being a family liaison officer, my job is to find out who that person is and go and tell their relatives what's happened. So we're driving towards the address and you're going down the street. The street's in darkness because it was around about midnight now. And there's always one light on. And then you know that's the address that you're going to be going into to deliver the news. So we walked down the driveway and knocked on the door. And
there was a knock on the door behind me. And when I opened it, there was 2 police officers stood there. I thought they were there to take a report for a missing person.
This was the first time I saw Helen. Helen was Jade's mum, and she'd been out looking for Jade, and she thought I'd come along to take a missing persons report. And as I walked in, you're starting to look around the house, look up the stairs, you know, because did Jade have any younger brothers and sisters? I now know that Jade actually had a younger sister, and she still has. And with Courtney was 9 at the time. No, I didn't know where she was.
And they told me my daughter had been killed in a road traffic collision.
I woke up because I could hear my mum screaming downstairs. I got scared. I thought something really bad had happened. I thought the unthinkable. I went to the top of the stairs and I shouted for my mum as loud as I could.
It turns out she was with the boy I thought she was with. She had got in a car with him. He was driving like a lunatic. He crashed the car flipped, it tore in half, and my daughter and another girl was thrown from the car. Now the lad driving, he left my daughter and this other girl to die, and he ran off to get his clothes changed to hide the evidence. All he had was a scratch on his finger.
Helen's devastation was undescribable, really. You know, it was just like I'd stuck a knife into her stomach, just, the tears, the pain. When you tell a mother that their child has been killed, it's like you cut them up inside, basically.
We had a stair gate, so I went down and sat behind the stair gate waiting for my mum to come out. My mum came out and said, "Jade's dead." That's all she said. She couldn't think of anything else. I ran upstairs thinking my mum was playing a joke. It was nothing happened like that to my sister. But Jade's bed was tidy. Our PJs were at the bottom. Everything was where it was. And that was it. I wasn't going to see her again now.
Because we were dealing with such a serious crime, Jade's body was considered as evidence, and for 3 whole days I had to keep going back to her house when Helen was asking me, "I need to see Jade, I need to go and see her." And because of the rules of evidence and my briefing from my bosses and the way the investigation was going, I had to go back and say, "You can't."
It was 3 days before I got to see Jade again, and I had to go and identify her body. And she just looked like she was asleep. She had a bit of a black eye, she had a bit of a cut on her nose. And I remember holding her hand and just feeling the coldness and just wanting her to jump up and put her hand up my back like she'd used to and make me jump. But she didn't. One thing I noticed was where they had washed the blood out of her hair, they had parted it the wrong way, and for a 13-year-old girl, that's quite a big deal. So I tried to put her hair right for her, and it was as I was brushing it back behind her ears, that's when I felt the staples holding her head together, and that's when it hit me.
She was everything. She was my life, my world. I don't want to go on without her.
All she wanted to do was say goodbye to her older sister. But I was told to wait until Jade was in the chapel of rest, because apparently it was nicer surroundings. But because of legal reasons, the boy who killed my daughter, he was allowed to ask for a second autopsy, just to see if it was the car crash that had killed her. So it took a month for my daughter's body to get to the funeral parlour. And a lot happens to a young body in a month. She wasn't my daughter anymore. Her eyes were sunken and grey, and her skin would flake when you touched her. I couldn't let Courtney say goodbye to her like that.
We left the mortuary, and I dropped the family back, and I stayed with them for the next sort of 3 or 4 months, because it was a major investigation, and the driver who was responsible for Jade's death eventually went to the Crown Court, and he was sentenced by a High Court judge for causing 2 deaths by dangerous driving. I've stayed in contact with the family since then, and each year it doesn't get any easier. And at the time of making this film, actually, it's very, very close to the anniversary of Jade's death. So, there are still things that remind me of what I had to do. And I've only got another year or so to go left in the police, and I don't ever want to have to do it again. But unfortunately, the law of averages says that I will have to.
Oh, we'll just have to go through it. That's it.
She should be dating now. She should be driving herself. She should be working. But she's not. All that was taken away for one silly mistake. Don't do this to your parents. Don't make them stand here and tell their story of how they lost you. Just Just take care of yourselves.